Some of this will be a little repetitive, and I'll go over the parts more quickly with Darlene. That's one of the issues about doing this sort of long distance and by email and fax and everything. Again, local foods, local farmers, that's what our farmers markets are all about. We were the first producer-only market in D.C. starting in '97. The market went year-round in 2003. Our Silver Spring market, because we did a DOT survey, which I'll talk about in a minute, we asked customers whether they would support a year-round market, and we had enough customer support and enough grower support that would be able to come to the market. So this season it started year-round. We started January 9. It's a Saturday market. The Dupont market started with 15 farmers, as Darlene said. We started out small. We did do a business plan which looked at where to site a producer-only farmers market in the District of Columbia so that you would draw on as strong a customer base as you could. So we looked at different neighborhoods throughout the district. Some had markets, or some had a farmer selling at a little road stand. We got data on the communities, so we knew from a half mile and a mile out what the density of population was that could come and potentially shop at the market. We knew their income level. A lot of this information you can get from the business office in your county or state that keeps the kind of data on that. But actually USDA had data on this for the Washington, D.C. area. So we were able to get data on that to know what kind of potential customer base we would have. We wanted to site it in an area that was visible, that was access to public transportation. We would like there to be a lot of parking, but that's not the case. But, you know, to have a mix of factors that make it an attractive site to be. And I do agree with Peter, you can overcome some of the problems of a bad site, but if you can find a site that really works with all those different dimensions, it's better to have that. Because we're really good at collecting the data, and because we set up our market with certain standards to begin with, I can tell the story about our 9 farmers markets. We have markets on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. We did 9 markets last year. Our newest market was the farmers market by the White House. It was just an incredible opportunity to be able to work with staff at the White House and open this farmers market and have the First Lady be there. I mean, it's like, wow, blew us away. Usually takes us 18 months to set up and negotiate the street side and all that kind of thing with the market. This market was a dream in July, and we opened in September. It was like, wow. It overtook everybody on the staff. I felt like I was working 40-hour days, but it was a phenomenal thing. Because we keep our data, I can tell you that, you know, we have the number of market days. Last year, our market sales were a little over 6 million. I'll talk about that in a minute and share some information with you on that. But all those are so important. But count everything you can at the market, and we have a little log sheet that used to be the way that we kept track at market. We now have an electronic system, but it's a very similar thing. You've got your market date, the number of customers, the products at market, any program activities. Nuisance issues have to do a lot with our using a public street. Surveying the farmers, really counting everything that you can, because what you can do is build that base as you look at growing the market the next year. Should we expand the season or maybe not? What kind of products are we missing or not? The basic number of market days, things that interfere with the market. We have several markets, not in D.C., but in Annapolis, Maryland, and Baltimore, where a marathon comes through, and they are not about to change the route of the marathon for a farmer's market on a Saturday. So those market days, nobody's coming to shop. So we warn the farmers in advance so they can plan to not have a market day on that. In Annapolis, they have the largest international in-water boat show in the world. And Annapolis takes over the whole town for 2 weeks. So we don't have a farmer's market there. We were offered another site, but I'll tell you, the customers, the residents who would shop at that market, they don't come down during the boat show. We surveyed the customers and asked them. So we're not down there when something like that happens, because it's not the tourists that we want. They're not buying a dozen ears of corn or a watermelon or a peck of tomatoes. It's the residents of that community. So you need to listen to what kind of things are going on with your community. People at market, volunteers, customers, so important. Seasonal foods at market, and what you find is as you attract new, younger growers to your market, or even just new, older growers who have decided to go into farming because they got tired of being a lawyer or something like that, They'll come to you as market manager and say, what kind of products do you need at market? What kinds of things are you missing? I'm a new grower. I've got some vegetable crops here, but are you missing some products? And what kinds of things would really be special that would make me pop out of the pack? And they're looking at you, market management, to provide that information. This is a beautiful picture of all these wonderful eggplant that, you know, Turkish, Egyptian. I mean, one farmer really doing incredible displays of that. The ramps here, I'm sorry, the ramps, the scapes from the garlic, you know, that used to be something farmers cut and threw away. Well, guess what? People will pay for that, and it's that kind of thing. We had one fruit grower who was pruning his apple trees. He bought bundles of applewood to market so that, you know, we live in the city mostly. We don't have applewood close by. So we told him, bundle it up and sell it at the market, and he was selling it for 50 cents a bunch. I said, no way, come on, you can charge $5 for that and people will still. So again, make it realistic because it will definitely be something your products can sell. Because we track all the products that people bring to market, it's on their farmer application, but on the market log sheet every week, we write down what products are coming to market, new ones, especially at the start of the season. So we were able to generate this seasonal chart of what is coming to market and when. And we look at it every year to see if we're right on. And what's happening now is that we're getting a little bit more greenhouse production. So yeah, you're going to probably find tomatoes at market in March, but we'll flag it and say it's from a greenhouse production. But you can generate this for your customers and have it on your website, have it as a handout. People are interested in this is how you begin to educate them about when they first come to market in May and say, where are the strawberries, or where are the tomatoes, or where's the sweet corn? This is the kind of thing you can use as an education tool, and it's a great handout to have. Market programs and chef demos, we count all of these because it's an important part of what we're doing with the community. We want to see that restaurants are actually using more local product and the kinds of foods and menus that they're doing in their restaurants, and we're seeing increased numbers of that. This is our downtown market at Penn Quarter. It's looking down at the National Archives there in the bottom photograph, but because that's a weekday market on Thursdays, several of the farmers have struck up arrangements with restaurants to either deliver in advance of the market or have the restaurant come to the market and pick up a delivery. We're only charging the farmer fees on what they sell at market. If they make these other arrangements, we say hooray, and that's something that they can do to sell additional product at the market. We want to encourage that. We want more of those restaurants shopping at the market. The Gleaning program, DC Central Kitchen has been the beneficiary since day one. But we have a market at Foggy Bottom, which is near George Washington University, and Miriam's Kitchen is the nonprofit that gleans from that market. They do a breakfast feeding program for the homeless. They actually charge the homeless. It's only like $1.25, but they charge them because they feel that it's an investment in their time to come, that it's not a free handout here. You respect it. They have fresh flowers on the table and tablecloths, and you have to do some community part of getting that breakfast in addition to paying for it. You know, throw away the trash or something. So they make it so that they're invested in it. The chef that runs this program comes at the end of the market to pick up food from the Foggy Bottom market. It's a Wednesday market. At the end of the growing season, so they keep track every week, 200 pounds, 1,000 pounds, whatever it is that's donated. At the end of the market season, he sends me a letter that says, here is the value of the food that you donated to our program. He values it at not the Costco level, he's valuing it sort of at the Giant or the Whole Food level because it's such high quality food that he's bringing. And in fact, the homeless will tell him, wow, the farmer's market's back in season, the greens are here, we love it. You know, so every year we hear that we save him in food costs, because otherwise he'd have to buy this food, between $30,000 and $40,000 that he can use for other program spending for his organization. So to us, that's another way that we hear how important it is giving back to the communities. Nuisance issues, well, you see that beautiful street. We usually don't have problems with towing cars in the Dupont market, but at several of the other market sites, we're right downtown. We're on busy streets that we close and cone off, and we have to get, I mean, as much signage as you put on parking meters, people don't pay attention, and we have to get people ticketed and towed. And we keep track of that because we're paying for the privilege of using the street, and we need to report back to the city on how well they're doing, how well the Business Improvement District is doing, helping us get people to come to market to that. And it may not be the most important thing for some of your markets, but for us, it really is critical to know what that is. Again, market log sheet, very important way to keep track. Cultivating the media, well, we're especially at the Dupont market. I mean, the people that write the food section for the Washington Post are shopping there all the time. I mean, that's just a reality of life. But in your communities, even like a small market that we have in Annapolis or St. Michael's, the foodies are out there. And now it's not just writing for the newspapers. It's the blogs, it's the Facebook things, it's all those kind of stuff. They're going to be coming to your market and having, you know, a great way of getting the message out about your market. So you need to cultivate them, invite them to the market. Strawberries are in season. Have them come down there and do a sampling with you about what's in season. There are lots of ways to cultivate the media and get them to be your friends. Web traffic, you know, Darlene covered that, but used to be there wasn't the web, wasn't the internet and that. Most of our farmers now have their own web pages, okay? And there are some organizations that will set them up for free. Localharvest.org is a way to also get your message out, and you don't have to pay money for that. I mean, you can be a membership donate, but there are ways to get out there with that. This whole blog, Facebook, Twitter, I'm really a dinosaur. I do a weekly email. We started doing this in 1998. And we collected names at the market. We have an information sign-up sheet. People can sign up. They want to get the weekly email. They want to volunteer at market, or they want to have a community organization come to market and what it is, and we'll get back in touch with them. Or if they want to play music, we invite them to do, but we want to schedule it so that we don't have 5 people on each corner of the market. But I do a weekly e-news, and collecting the names, it started out about 2,000 people. I still do it every week, write a weekly, and it's all about what's going on at the market and the programs at each market and all the products and stuff. It now reaches 10,000 people every single week, and then it's passed on. So the Penn Quarter neighborhood takes out that Penn Quarter section and sends it to all their people. It goes to 5,000 in Penn Quarter. The Foggy Bottom people the same way. So there's a huge way to get the word out. This whole idea of tweeting. When we did the White House market, we actually paid someone. She was like, we were on the podium. I see her right in front of me. She's tweeting every single thing that's going on about the market, whether, you know, the market was open, the First Lady was speaking, and now she's buying stuff from the creamery and all that. And I think it helped drive traffic. It was a rainy day. It wasn't the nicest day. One whole side of the market was closed off. You couldn't get to it on the metro. It was just unbelievable. Well, the last Saturday before Christmas this year was our blizzard day. We'd had a huge blizzard. We had 18 inches of snow. Some of our farmers had 22 inches of snow. So a lot of them couldn't even get out of their driveway to come to market. So we called them all because, again, someone said, you know, your farmers don't always pay attention to the email. Well, a lot of them don't have computers, or their service was out because of that bad storm. So we called everybody and said, we're going to close the market. Very unusual for us to do that. That's only the second market we've ever closed since '97. The other one was when Katrina was going to hit, and we closed it because the high winds, people coming from the Eastern Shore to our market on a Thursday. So we told them, the market's closed, but if you can make it to market, we'll be down there with our staff, but everybody's got to fit in the parking lot because we can't plow the street. Okay, so we had 8 farmers show up, counted every single person, but the person who did our social media, who did it for the White House, I called her and said, could you Twitter about this? Could you? And she did. Thousands of people responded. She sent us this whole little PowerPoint about what people's comments were about coming to the market that day and finding product, tweeting their friends, and everything. So this can work for you. I don't know how to use these systems, but you'll find people in your community or in your area that will. Impact on local businesses is always very hard to judge, but there's a lot of evidence that we have. For one thing, the bakers and the restaurants nearby the market, they used to open at 9 o'clock. Well, guess what? They open at 8 now because they're seeing customers stand out line with their nose pressed to the window. And so they decide to open early so they can have coffee and that kind of stuff. The bank where we have the market had only one ATM machine. Well, ATM machines don't fill up on Saturday. They replenish them Mondays. What was happening is that ATM machine was going dry. The market people come to it on, so they added 2 ATM machines to the market site. Gives you some clue as to how the businesses benefit. But if you walk around the market businesses during market hours, you see people with their market bags going into the bookstore, going into the jewelry shop. I mean, they are definitely patronizing other businesses, and you can get more information on that from your DOT survey. Weekly market sales, I really think it's so important to know your sales. We set up the market to begin with that farmers had to report their sales, and then we charge a percentage fee. We charge 6%. That would be the cost of sales tax if there were sales tax on food in the district. Interesting, there is not sales tax on food in the district. We charge 6% of sales. Farmers who also do the WIC and the senior nutrition coupon programs, we ask them to report those sales separately. And at the end of the market season, because we just want to know what kind of redemption are we getting. It's only fruits and vegetables that are accepting this. We want to know the redemption. So we have them report those sales separately. And at the end of the market season, I refund the 6% fee that they pay on those market sales as a thank you for getting that data. So I just think it's really important. We do also, at 3 markets, we redeem food stamps and keep track of that, and I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow. But one of the things is keeping that data. We did a fabulous survey of the farmers. I want to pass out, this is, maybe you could do that. This is information on our markets that we share. We have an annual meeting with the farmers, and it's a little hard now because we have about 90 farmers, and when we have a meeting, we say they can bring 2 people to the annual meeting, so that's 180 people. And we don't like an auditorium. We like it where we can have a nice lunch and talk across the table and things. So this year and last year, we've done 2 meetings. So we have our annual meeting with the farmers, and what we do is share with them information. First of all, we're a nonprofit, so we have to provide a tax form, a 990, which is totally available to the public and open to see. So we share with the farmers both our information about how much money we raise. That's how much I can tell you that 46% of our funding came from the farmer fees and 16% from foundations and 25% from that event. So we show them all the sources of income, what we raise. Then we also show them how we spent their money. But this chart is the chart that we show them to summarize all the information that we have about each market. So we compare it to the prior year. So we're looking at the Foggy Bottom market, 09 and 08, seeing 3% increase in sales, seeing only a 1% increase in customers, and seeing the change in farmers, as well as the number of market days, same number of market days, the amount of gleaning, and the kind of programs. If you go down this chart, you'll see that some markets were not doing so well last year, including the St. Michael's market, which is in a small community, economy's down, market site was under construction, and I looked at the market data as far as weather. Half of the market days are rainy or cold. All that's influencing the numbers, and we share every bit of that information with the farmers so that we can tell the story, that we can plan for next year. Some of these numbers, like even in the Foggy Bottom market, I know from having tracked them, was only the last month that we pulled into the positive. And also this doesn't show the fact that we actually lost 6 farmers this year in that, or last year in that market, and we replaced them. We replaced them with other farmers. So again, we explain all that to the farmers, but using this summary sheet as a guide to that. And by having that conversation with the farmer and sharing that information, we're not hiding anything from them. We want them to know how well the markets are doing, how we can plan for the season for the coming year. The Dupont market is year-round. It was since 2003, and that came about by asking customers would they come out in the winter for the market. We did the same thing at Silver Spring this year because the market is very strong. It's right in this pedestrian mall. In fact, it was the highest grossing market last year as far as increase. 48% increase in sales, 29% increase in customers. So it's a very strong market down there. The STOT survey you see on the wall here, it's a very easy thing to do. You have 4 or 5 questions, no more than that. You can just put this up on the easel paper, have people put dots on it. What we do is we change the color of dots on the hour so that we can see what different responses we're getting on the hour. And it was very interesting at Dupont because the first hour, we're seeing, that market's 14 years now. We're seeing the hardcore people that were there from year 1 or have been shopping there 10 years. And the second hour, we're seeing people that shop from 1 to 5 years at that market. So the younger crowd, they're sleeping in an hour, but they're coming to market. But, so you can get a lot of information from those kind of surveys, and you can communicate it back to your farmers so that they can know. I mean, at some markets we ask, what kind of products would you like to see here? Because we think we might be missing something. Another market, St. Michael's market, where we had such an issue with the town, we asked how much people spent at market, how much they expected to spend while they were in that town, in that community, and we share it back with that community because some people in town, especially some businesses that aren't doing so well, they think that the market's stealing money from their businesses, when in effect they're attracting people to the town to spend more money. So using that can be really, really important. I think that farmers markets are one of the best things that people can be doing. If you think about the quality of food, the integrity of the product, rebuilding community and neighborhood, food safety. I mean, what food could be safer when you can talk across the table with the farmer who grew it? I think it's just the best thing. So let's open it up for questions. Here you go.
There were two things I thought of. One was volunteer, farmer meetings. We also do a volunteer meeting when we ask our volunteers their input on the year. How did we do? What do we do? What should we do differently? And they have their own meeting. And they've given us great evaluation.
We do sort of a happy hour for volunteers, just to kind of thank them.
Happy hour, that's a good idea.
And bring them together and get their input onto things. And it's interesting sometimes they'll think of something that you hadn't even thought of at all to be able to do at market.
That's right.
One market, we have a lot of young families come and everything, and I think you saw it, Darlene, when you were there.
Yes.
And it's in a parking lot between the thing. So we had Kaiser Permanente as a partner with this market because you're trying to get healthy food into low-income community and everything. And they brought all these toys for the market, and so jump ropes and hopscotch and all these.
I have a picture of Bernie actually chalking out the hopscotch.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a picture of you doing that. Like, now there's a founder still chalking out the hopscotch.
Yeah, but I asked the Kaiser, I said, so where will these go after we're done with them today? He goes, well, they'll be in my garage until we come back next month. And I said, how about if we just keep them? Because that way, this little playground, parents let their kids run around, and it's a totally safe area, totally closed off. I mean, it's such a great.
Yeah, it's really nice little
market. People
linger
at the market then. They spend a little bit more time there. It's great.
Yeah.
It's just a comment. I don't live all that far. I don't live all that far from this Harbor East market in Baltimore.
The Harbor East market?
Yeah, and I know it's not doing all that well. And one of the things that's bothered me is when I see the signs that say Farmers Market with an arrow, it's in an out of the way location, so it's difficult.
It's right on the
but it doesn't. The Farmers Market sign doesn't say when it is.
I know.
It just says Farmers Market. I don't know if it's a Tuesday afternoon or a Saturday or a Sunday or anything else.
We actually had some big banners that said when exactly that farmer's market was, and it's in an odd location. It's not in a normal traffic area. The Whole Foods is a block away. We had a really great partner with that market. It's a developer down there that actually has provided 3 years of funding for that market. But the whole economy down there has not come up either, so it's a problem. But yeah, your signage should include what day of the week and all that kind of stuff. Problem is, we've been looking at changing the day of the week for that, so we'd have to redo all the signage, and those A-frames cost about $800 a piece. So. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been quite a good evaluation. Our volunteers carry signs, including all of the day of the market, and pick them up on their way
like
home.
those real estate
Yeah.
signs?
Yeah, the real estate signs. Right.
Right.
We're lucky we can do it, and that way we don't have our time and day on there in case we change it. Plus, we have two markets that we can use them.
Yeah. Well, we actually have our yard signs. We have our market manager's mobile number on it. We put them out that day. Oh, they love that. Oh, exactly. Sarah's like, I never do that.
I was just curious about comparing day or sales days as well as hours of operation and possible days for expanding. Just days about if you have a Tuesday and Saturday market, how to compare, and then if you're going to expand, finding the next day or additional hours of operation.
Yeah, well, when we looked at doing downtown markets on a weekday, what we wanted to look at was who's going to be the customer base, just like we started with Dupont. We knew that a lot of people lived in that Dupont, a lot of residential. It's also a nice combination of business, so people came down to the market and probably also shop for those businesses. When we did the Penn Quarter Market, people were living in that neighborhood because there are a lot of condos down there. But then they're also on their way home from work, and it's convenient to Metro South. So we see that as basically.
So you did an evaluation. I mean, their evaluation of how they pick location is very involved. I mean, I think they do an excellent job picking. They can give you lots of reasons why they picked the location. They didn't, like you said, with Penn Quarter, you waited. You were offered it. You said, no, we'll come back. I'll give you an example of that. After Hurricane Katrina, we weren't even sure we were going to reopen markets. We had our email list of our shoppers and vendors, had recontacted our vendors. We had a phone tree, and we actually deputized vendors in the field. We paid them to be on the field for us because we were all over the country. And we asked our shoppers, what market should we open first? And we really had no expectations of what they would say. They chose the Tuesday market because it was one of the unflooded areas of the city. And the chefs wanted the market open because there was no distribution for food, and everybody was eating through restaurants because there were no kitchens. And so we opened Tuesday because that's what our shopper base and vendors and the neighborhood told us to open.
Just like you were saying earlier, Darlene, with copying the same sorts of models that Walmart uses and those business models, UNC Public Health has a Gillings project, which is a sustainability project. One of their projects is to use the same resources that Walmart uses and Harris Teeter, which is our local grocery store, uses to do their site locations and apply that to farmers markets. So they are looking what other farmers market is in a 5-mile, 10-mile, 15-mile, what other food market, and what is the population, and what are the demographics. And these really expensive tools that these professional marketers are using for Walmart, now they're applying it to local food. Now, it's not completely finished, but you can look up the Gillings Project at UNC Public Health website and already get a lot of wonderful information that could be helpful.
Yeah, it's really good. But I mean, how they survey people. Right. Yeah, sure.
No one lives down there. It's all these government employees. It was really interesting to see that we did disturb that market that had already been established.
I just had two quick comments on the question about times. I think two things that I've seen. One is people unfamiliar tend to want to make markets longer than they need to be.
True.
And I love the Fresh Farm model of ringing a bell at the beginning of the end, and the idea that the customers can be trained to come during a shorter amount of time and have just as many of them come and spend just as much money. And staying open an extra hour or two is really just an inconvenience for the vendors who are already working a really long day. And then my second comment, and maybe this is just an Asheville thing, I don't know, but for afternoon markets, people have tended to assume that they needed to stay open till 6 or 7 because people would come after work. But any afternoon market that I've seen that has done that, their peak shopping times are not after 5. They're actually before 5. And I don't know whether anyone else can corroborate that from anywhere else.
Mine is different, my Thursday afternoon, but certainly there's 2 peaks.
Yes.
There is a 3:15 and 4:15 peak, and then there's around a 6 p.m.
You have a 6 peak. Yeah, we
but
haven't.
you're
Markets
right,
keep
it
thinking
happens.
they'll have a 6 peak, and
But that's
they
a
don't.
good evaluation.
And so that's just something to think about in terms of your assumptions that you're making.
One of the things we do is look at the market hours every year and look at the customer counts. So, for instance, the Annapolis market, we looked at the counts, and we're getting like 1 to 10 people that first half hour. So I think this coming year, we're going to shorten that. We're going to make it an 8:30 start time. The reason we have some markets open at 2:30 instead of 3 is we were missing some population. At Foggy Bottom, the staff changes at 3 o'clock. They couldn't shop at the market. They're headed to their car. 2:30, they're going to come out, shop before they go to the market. We also asked the farmers, because at Dupont, there's always these stragglers at the end, people coming at the end, especially the church people, because it's right after church coming to the market. So we always ask them every year, do you want to extend the market a half hour or an hour? And to a grower, everybody does not want to extend it. I know the New York City Green Market, their farmers are out there all day. And I've had those people say that conversation to me, we need to come and see your markets because how do you get them to shop and spend so much and you're not out there all day? You can train them. I mean, you really can.
Our Saturday market, North Sand Mountain Farmers Market, is from 8 to 11. We set our hours based on what the customers wanted. We ring a bell. We had some people that didn't like that at the beginning, but now everybody's happy with it. But we started a satellite market on Wednesday afternoon in Mentone, which is about 20 miles away, because customers wanted it. And they told us the time to have it. They told us what they wanted. It's been very successful. And it's from 3 to 6. Both our markets are 3 hours. The people are in, they're out. Farmers are in, they're out, and it works.
Now, 3-hour markets, I mean, that's very well defined, I must say. I mean, you see a lot of 3-hour markets, and I think that has to do with, you make a choice early on, but you should evaluate that. Evaluate that based on your community, because that could be wrong. I mean, you can just have an assumption, but if you're, doing a great amount of business all that time, you probably got it right.
That's great.
So this is all great information, and thank you very much. So if I go to some of these resources, because I'm not the kind of person that knows how to format surveys, will I find examples?
Yeah, our survey, Seed, need, we actually have the whole survey, and there's others. I mean, there's a good explanation of how to do dot surveys. Who's got that? Is it Oregon? Is it Oregon, Stace? I mean, you have, it's on your thumb drive.
Yeah,
but no, you're right, and that's a walk through, because it can't be complicated, and it shouldn't be. I mean, these are lots of different tools. Yeah.
Find a volunteer. Find somebody that loves your market
Yeah,
so
they'll
much
do
they're
it.
willing to do it for you. You will find those people.
You will find
really
them.
will.
That's very true.
You might have answered this already, but how are you doing the customer count at Dupont Circle now? You're not doing the clickers anymore?
You're still
right?
doing the clickers.
You're
It's
still
just
doing
very
that?
hard.
Oh, really?
It's very
Get a
hard.
ladder. I say get a ladder and look up from on top, because it's like, I mean,
That would be a better idea. It's hard. It's really, because I've done it on a crowded market day. I was like,
we got to guess how many vendors they have. It's hard to see it.
No, it's our staff usually that do it, but we do have volunteers at the information table, and if a staff member is not there, they know how to do it. And
Yeah,
we'll
we don't do customer counts every week. We do ours when we do seed, our tool, and we have a whole group of volunteers. Usually it's interns or university students who do seed for us, and they spend the day counting, a few times a year. So it's not as scientific as doing it every week. And sometimes we just do it ourselves, just to go during an event, go and count. Just you can just do it. Start doing it on a regular basis. If you carry it with you, it's actually become simpler and simpler. Just carry it with you and do it while you're doing it.
put in your pocket.
What's that?
Our market's small, but every week we have a market buck drawing, we call it, where people fill out a slip with their name and address, and we ask a couple questions on there when we want to, but then those go into a drum. We pull out every week. Somebody wins $10 in market bucks to spend at the market, but mainly we collected all the data of everybody at the market, and we know not everybody fills it out, so we add 10% to the number of slips that we have, assuming that many people didn't fill it out. So we have our count, and we have a database so that we can mail out to everybody, and we know how many repeat customers we have.
Oh, yeah. No,
Our
that's
best
a great thing to
customers missed 2 weeks of the whole market, and they are our volunteers now too. Because we said, wow, you guys are really good at the market. Would you like to do this?
One thing about knowing the sales, because we've set our market up that way, if you don't get the sales, I mean, Darlene's talked about some good tools to have, but the other thing is the relationship you build with the farmer. And we have market masters that will come to us and say, the farmers will not officially report their numbers, but at the end of the season, they will tell us how much they did off the record, or what percentage increase they had off the record. And that's, if you've got this good relationship with your farmers, that can help you a lot inform the decisions on how you're going to be growing your market, whether or not you got the right products mix at your market, whether or not you need to expand the season, all that kind of thing. It's so important. So I think there are ways to get the numbers.
Right. Okay, I think we're right at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.